Welcome back to the Unstuck Movement. I'm your host, Rob Z. Today we have an incredible guest with us, Grant Findlay-Shirras. And Grant, before I even jump into what you're all about, I'd like to jump into a powerful question on the show because this platform's all about breakthrough. These are true testimonies of breakthrough. So you've had quite a story, man. Built a huge tech company that went to $37 million, but during that process, you went to zero 4 times in that period throughout growing your businesses. Usually when somebody goes broke, they back out, they give up, things fall apart, and they have to figure the rest of your life out. But you kept going and kept growing. What keeps you going and what has kept you going through those times that you dropped to zero?
Well, before I start, I have to say I've done a few podcasts. That was the coolest intro with the imagery and all that. I love that. That was
Thanks, man.
good for you, man.
Got to set the tone.
Because that was the first time for me seeing it. Yeah. So first, I would say my wife and I are a little crazy for punishment, and we're a bit delusional and stubborn, and all these things that would cause someone to lose all their money 4 times and say, no, this business is not over. Yeah, we can do this. We can rebuild this. We want to rebuild this, and that really is the punchline right there. Because recently, last year, that mindset changed, and then we exited the company. But during the journey, it was because there were reasons why we went to zero. So the first time we had our first sales manager we ever hired committed fraud, and we lost all of our money. The second time we expanded to the United States. So I'm Canadian. Shout out to Canadians out there. So we expanded to the States, and everyone's like, you got to be worried that they're litigious down there. And I was like, come on, like, can't be bad. We got a good business. We're good people. And lo and behold, we had a crazy client cause a ruckus, and we lost all of our money. We got it all back, but we lost all of our money. If anyone's ever like lost money to disputes, so we felt that the first time was unfair with the sales manager. The second time was unfair because we didn't expect it. It was a new experience. We didn't know that money could be disputed because it never happened before, and all that stuff. So we lost all our money the second time. The third time, we had all these natural disasters. I don't know if everyone remembers back in 2017, there was the fires in California. There was the crazy hurricanes in Texas. And so like when we started growing our business, it was all in the big states, Florida, Texas, California. Like that's where a lot of our business was. And then when all those natural disasters happened at once, we couldn't sell in those areas. And my sales team was just so deflated. And if we get into sales, like sales is very emotional. And if your sales team is deflated, it's hard to make sales. And so we started bleeding out money. And I knew it wasn't a function of our product or, the industry that we were in. It was just a period of time. And so we just needed to get through that period of time. And then the fourth time was COVID. So I'm like, well, this is not fair. I didn't expect this. This was not planned. And so I think that was one factor. Was it didn't go to zero for reasons that we thought might tell us, oh, your business sucks, you should stop. It was like, no, our business is awesome. This is just unfortunate, inconvenient. I still see a future. And because we wanted to build the business, we had a vision for the future. We knew we had a good company. We figured out how to get unstuck and move forward and start making money again. And the cool thing, so my previous industry before tech was in health. If anyone's ever been injured before, you know that you have muscle memory and you quickly recover. So like you lose strength, you lose, balance or endurance, but then you can more quickly get back to where you were than it took you to get there in the first place. And that's the same thing in business. I learned that when you lose, you get better at getting back to where you once were. And so it doesn't take as long. Like COVID, we went to zero and then back up to $500,000 a month in 6 months. Mm-hmm. And so that was a huge thing was we still had the passion and the drive and the vision for what our business could become. And then 2023 rolls around and we actually start seeing the industry in decline. We start getting bored because we've been doing it for 12 years. And when that passion and energy goes, the business starts to go. And that's when we decided to exit.
Amazing, man. It's incredible. I love to hear that, and people need to hear this, obviously, from all walks of life. The bouncing back, the muscle memory. It's so important, because if we don't have that, we get stuck. And this is where people fall apart. This is where their lives fall apart. And I have so many different questions I want to ask you going through this, just about you being crazy and delusional, knowing it's just a period of time, but also I'm interested in learning about your relationship with your wife, because that bond also is something huge. Before we go into all of that, this is the Unstuck Movement. This platform is created to help you, give you real life examples that perseverance, that faith, that strength, working through things is the way to go, and you'll find that breakthrough in your life. It's sponsored by the Connected Leaders Academy. Check out connectedleadersacademy.com. Grant from Vancouver, British Columbia, built a 6-figure fitness business and Canada's largest mobile fitness franchise before creating a $37 million marketing software company with his wife. And now he focuses on building his coaching and consulting empire. And is this, so I've heard this from other people, and I have experienced it myself. I want to get your thoughts on it. Your thermometer for where you're at, right? So talking about going to zero 4 different times, when your thermometer gets set, like maybe your financial thermometer or your lifestyle thermometer or your threshold for what you can handle, when that thermometer gets raised, you always find a way to bring yourself to where that thermometer is set. So if it's set very low, then you're going to stay low. But if you set it very high, then you're going to always go back to that place, because that's where you feel balance. Do you believe that's true?
I believe there's ceilings that you need to break through, because I believe you definitely can get back to where you were. Then the challenge is breaking through to another level. Mm-hmm. Then when you get used to that level, if you fell down, you're going to get back up to that level. If you by fluke get above that level, you'll probably fall back down to where your equilibrium is, because that kind of happens sometimes. And so there's got to be rhyme and reason as to why you're growing and elevating either yourself or your business or your health, your body, your skill in something, that it doesn't go away. Like some things on the external world may go away. And I think that really has come true for me lately is when we no longer have a business. And so it feels weird, but even though some benefits of that business have gone away, we are still who we are, and you can't take that away. And so we're excited about the next chapter of our life and how quickly we'll be able to grow. Like I definitely expect myself to grow a lot to get back to doing certain numbers faster than 10 years, to get there. So I think there's muscle memory, so coming from health, like I think that exists. And then I think there's ceilings. And I think that's the most challenging thing in life, is to break through those ceilings so you can get to a new temperature of what you can withstand. Both how many staff can you withstand? How much, expenses can you withstand? How much revenue can you withstand? How much legal pressure can you withstand? Because the more you grow, the more that kind of happens. And that in itself is just a muscle that you develop. And if something goes away, then yeah, you can quickly get back to it. And then if for whatever reason, like something lucky happens and you go above it, if you don't have the muscle or skill to actually be there, you'll probably fall back down.
That's so true, man. That's a really great way of putting that, right? I think of like when people win the lottery, like why do they sometimes, it can ruin their life completely, because they have no framework for that sort of money, that sort of lifestyle, or how to manage or handle that kind of money. So it ruins them. And that makes sense, because they're not used to that. They have not put in the muscle, the work, the reps and the sets to get themselves to that place to be able to handle that. And so it makes sense for you. Like you have to rise, fall a little bit, put the work in, learn what went wrong, rise again, then you're going to fall back a little bit, keep hitting those ceilings, and then keep breaking through those ceilings. That really does make a lot of sense. But I love what you said at the beginning here, the crazy, delusional, and stubborn part of that. What? Because there is truth to that, right? It's just the delusional and like, oh, we went to 0 4 times, but you know what? Screw it. I know this is the right thing. We're going to keep going. First of all, I feel like you need to have somebody on your side who's like ride or die with you, going through this with you. That helps a lot. But also in yourself. What is that about you in yourself? Do you think you were just born like that? Or do you think that's something you developed along the way?
I think I've always had a tendency to be like, this is what I want to achieve. And then I'll shut out a lot of things in life to then go do what's required to go get that thing. Whether it be when I was younger, like it was sports. So like I have no problem being a lone wolf and just being in my backyard shooting hoops for hours and hours on end. And with no one around, like I don't need to go hang out with friends. I want to be the best basketball player on the team. This is what's required. No problem. Let's go do it. And then in business, it was like, okay, I want to make this money. I want to build this great big business. Anything else that isn't aligned with that, don't need it in my life. Cut it out. And so then I think that's a little bit kind of innate in a human, is that lack of need for certain social things that other people need. Like my doctor, my parents are like, yeah, you're on the spectrum, but like, I'm not gonna give you, like, my dad's a doctor. He's like, you're not gonna take medication. You're not gonna go do these things. Like you're just gonna figure it out. And so that's definitely like just, I was born, just slightly different than everyone else. But I think it's also a muscle. I remember getting into business and having an amazing university time where I was the president. Okay, so imagine this. I was the president of social life at university. And this is like so funny about who I am as a person. So everyone thought Grant is this big social person because I'm planning events and trips and everything. I know more people than anyone in the university, and like this guy. That's how it appeared. In my head, I was like, I'm doing a job and I want to put on more events than anyone's ever put on. I went to the dean. I was like, how many events has someone put on? I'm going to break that record. How much money? Because all your other clubs and all your other things lose money. I want to make money. How much money? What's the most money someone's made? I want to make money. I want to put on more events. Like I want to hit these records and break them. And that was like my mindset. And for me, it was a job. And then as soon as university ended, it was like, I cut that off and I started my fitness career and I shut out everyone. And everyone's like, where are you, Grant? I'm like, I'm busy. I'm busy working on my new thing. They're like, but come on, like you're always the guy that's out. And I'm like, yeah, that was me, but that's not me. That was just like a thing I did. And I'm able to make these boundaries. And then there was a time when I was like, oh, should I be out with my friends? Should I be, look, that looks kind of fun. Like what my friends are doing looks fun. Am I missing out on something? And it really got to me as a person for a long time. And I can imagine like a lot of young people out there who are starting entrepreneurship or starting their business or starting something new that their friends are not doing. And they see their friends doing what they would maybe do. And they start having this FOMO around it. And I remember it it's a muscle to just continually say no. And it's hard at first. And you just got to keep saying no. And eventually it just gets a lot easier. And then you become a different person with a different lifestyle and different personality and different goals and different, habits and rituals and routines. And it becomes a whole lot easier. And I remember that being like a real sticking point for me that you train. So I think there might be something in me that's a little bit, different. But I think for the most part, most things are learned, most things are trained. Like that's my philosophy for most things, because then that is empowering for me. If anything I ever want to do, if it's learned and trainable, then I can do it. And for anyone else out there, most things are learned and trained.
It sounds, yes, we're acclimated towards certain things, but we also are able to learn things and train ourselves and set ourselves in new directions. One of the things that comes up while you're talking about this too is the word obsession comes up, right? Like being obsessed with something enough that it's but a healthy obsession, right? How do you balance something being a healthy obsession between unhealthy, or do you not really deal with that issue?
I don't, well, okay. So I will say I don't really deal with that issue anymore, because the obsessions are to me positive obsessions. So like I'm obsessed with my business career, I'm obsessed with my wife and my dog, and my health and my tennis. That's it. And so my life is very simple. Those are the only things I spend time on. I don't have that many friends, don't spend that much time talking to people and DMing people and group chats. Like, no, I'm not really in all that. I remember when I was younger, that kind of personality came out where, I'm from British Columbia, Canada, which is like the weed capital of the world, probably next to Amsterdam. So like I grew up doing a lot of drugs, and university and the party scene. Like you kind of like do it because to me, I was like, oh, this helps me connect with people, because people want to smoke cigarettes, they want to do drugs, they want to do this thing. And so I was like, okay, cool. This is my way of connecting with more people, so I can invite more people to the parties. And so then I would get into that, and that was a negative obsession. Like that's a negative thing. And I remember before I started my fitness career, I was like, I shook my head. I got kicked out of my second condo for noise complaints, because I would host like after parties, because I was continuing on with events and all that stuff. And I was like, this is not what I want to do in my life. What am I doing? And so I just like cut it all off. And I'm a big fan of cold turkey. So if there is a negative obsession that you have, cold turkey is the way. I've helped a lot of people quit smoking in my fitness career. And other people like stopped doing drugs. And I believe that cold turkey is the best way. And you just are forced to now replace the negative obsession with new positive obsessions. I think it's a great thing to be obsessed about certain things in life, as long as they're positive things that improve your health, improve your wealth, improve your relationships with your significant other and close family, and potentially improve, the things that you want to give back to and contribute to.
Yeah, it's a really good point, because we look at obsession as being a bad thing, but obsession really is how things get done and how we get really good at something, and how you make something a really concrete part of your life. So having healthy, good obsessions is a good thing. And I think that people like look at obsession as negative, because people who aren't obsessed with things, which means they might not have a very deep passion about anything, look at it as an obsession as a problem. Like this person works out too much, they might work too much, right? And there is overworking if you're stressed and it's like kind of ruining you. But there's also working so much because you love what you're doing and you're moving towards something amazing and you're helping people's lives and you're changing their lives. So that's a good obsession to have. But like you said too, keeping life simple, that's so important. You have a couple of things that you love, and those are the things that you do. And a simple life is the best life, right? It doesn't matter what you're focused on, but keeping it simple and going towards those things is so important. So we got to jump into a 60-second break to shout out the sponsor of the podcast. When we come back, though, I want to know about your relationship with your wife, because it sounds like that's a huge part of the growth you've had in your business also. And how did you two meet? And just a question around like, how do you find the right person who shares with you in your vision so that you can keep moving and keep that momentum? We'll talk about that in 60 seconds.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JASCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So Grant, I'm loving this conversation, and I want to. I'm fascinated by relationships, and having the right relationships in your life will change everything. And like you said, you don't have many people in your life that you stay in close contact with, but your wife is there by your side. How did you two meet?
This is a funny one. So especially in like the self-development space, like, so I hope people will get some of these references. So like when I was younger, I left university and I was like, okay, I'm done this life. I now want to grow my career. And at the time it was health and fitness. And so I started dating a lot, and I was like looking for my wife, and I was like, I'm trying to find it. And I had learned from a previous mentor to make a list. Anyone who's in a relationship or looking for a relationship, make a list of what you need and what's nice to have. And even that exercise alone helps you get clear on what you actually need, what are need to haves, non-negotiables, and what are nice to haves. Even getting clear on that is a good thing. Because then when you're clear on that, kind of like a business plan, you know what to look for. And so then when you go out and you start dating, you start asking the right questions to try to find it. And I remember going on 21 dates in 1 month, and all of them sucked. And I just could not. And I was so frustrated. And I was like, I cannot find anyone in Toronto that like is what I'm looking for. And then I kind of gave up. And this is like another part of like life and manifestation, attraction, which are big values. Like you got to get clear on what you want, but then you got to let go and let be. And so I stopped trying, and then I focused on my career. I said, screw this, too much time dating. I need to get into my business. So I focused on my business, and my first client, or one of my first clients, was my wife's roommate, but I didn't know my wife at the time. So I get her as a client. I'm in fitness. And then my boss, I'm working at a gym. My boss says, hey, your new client wants to invite me and other people to this bar on St. Patty's Day. Do you want to come and you can meet your new client? And I was like, sure. So I go to this bar on St. Patty's Day, and I'm Irish. So like, this is all so amazing for me. So I go there and meet my client. And then my boss is like, hey, that's her roommate. You should try to sell her on personal training. I said, sweet, absolutely. And so then I go over to her, and earlier in the week, this is before like I knew anything about blogging or anything. I used to make blog. I didn't know anything about content marketing, but I knew that if people could read articles about health and fitness that I wrote, that they would see me as an expert, and then they would hire me. So I used to write on a Word document and print it out at the gym and hand out articles to people and just say, read this. And if you want more training, like if you think I'm an expert and you like the way I think about health and fitness, like here's my number and email, contact me. And I gave her one of the articles. And I remember giving her the article. And so my wife looks very different now, but at the time, Jersey Shore was a very popular show. And so anyone can just close their eyes and look at Snooki, right? So like she had crazy tan skin, the bangs, the dark hair, bar star looking. And so I remember like seeing her at the bar, and I remember giving her the article, and I was like, I gave you an article the other day. She's like, yeah, I remember. And I was like, you probably didn't read it. And then she was like, actually, and she pulls out her clutch at the bar and she pulls out the article. And I'm sitting there like, you have my article on you at the bar in this tiny little clutch? Like, oh, I'm getting some, I'm selling something right now. Yeah. I'm like, this is amazing. And so I was like, she's like, yeah. do you know who wrote that? She's like, no. And I'm like, I wrote it. And the article was about how you need to think yourself into a six-pack. That cortisol decreases your ability to get gains in your muscle and lose fat and absorb nutrition. Cortisol is your stress hormone. So you can't be stressed out and try to improve your health. It won't happen as fast. So you need to be positive and grateful and appreciative. And you need to have these, feelings about your life in order to get results faster and decrease cortisol. And so my wife, she's like, I love this article because I'm so big into thinking positive and law of attraction. And we start talking about that because we're both into that. And that was one of the things that I struggled to find in a woman was the entrepreneurial mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that was super important for me to be able to be with someone who thought the way I thought, because I can't go on this journey with someone else thinking differently and pulling me down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not everyone is like this. I mean, maybe more now than ever, but back in 2011, it wasn't that big, or at least at our age group, we're 23 or something. There wasn't that many 23, 24, 25-year-olds like thinking this way
Mm-hmm.
and studying it. And so we start talking. I was like, oh, I'm super big into Bob Proctor, who we think is one of the OGs in self-development. I don't know do you know Bob Proctor?
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Actually, the lady who coached me in coaching was trained under Bob Proctor.
Oh, the guy is a G. Met him and got some really good. I remember the thing I asked him when I was went to an event and I got to spend some time with him, and I was like, you talk about this like pain barrier. It's a total digression. And where you hit a pain barrier, how do you break through like the threshold, the barrier? And I was like, he's like, self-talk. Self-talk is the thing that he does so that you don't bounce away and retreat. You can break through and potentially rebuild your business from being at zero. Mm-hmm. It's what you tell yourself in your head. And so back to the story, we talked about how we know Bob Proctor, and I was like, ooh, I have a Bob Proctor goal card. And so I pull out this, like, because this is one of his like strategies, is you should have a card in your wallet with your 3 goals that you're focused on right now. I'm so happy and grateful now that goal 1, goal 2, goal 3 has happened. I'm so excited. And it's branded Bob Proctor. And then Amanda pulls out the same goal card. And I'm like, my mind is blown. My boss is like, you guys stood in the same area in the bar for 4 hours talking, and we have never left each other's hip ever since.
Oh man, I love that. That's so good. When you find somebody who's on the same wavelength as you and you just connect like that. So it was curtains after that. I assume there was no question. Like,
that was lights out, everything happened. And at the time she had her real estate business and I had my fitness business, and it was just, let's go be entrepreneurs and crush the world. And then it was just by luck that we built this technology for our businesses to get more clients. It worked for both of us. And then realtors came to her, because realtors are way more aggressive with like, what are you doing? How do you make money? I want to make more money. And so then she came home with $30,000 being like, we're going to do what we just did for other realtors. And I'm like, what? And she was like, yeah, I sold realtors on what we did, and we're going to do it for them. I'm like, we don't have a business. She was like, yeah, we're going to figure this out because I just got $30,000. And I was like, all right. And so that was how we ended up even doing business together, was total, stumbled upon it.
So I want to stick on this relationship thing for 1 second, because I think this is really important, man, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you're chasing after things. You tend to block other stuff out, and relationships can sometimes be the hardest thing to stay committed to, or to find the right person and know when it's the right person, right? Because you're so set on what you're going after, you can lose sight of other people and why that's so important. You said you went on 21 dates in a month, right? most people don't go on 21 dates in a year, or even like maybe 5 years, who are trying to find somebody, right? So what advice would you give to somebody who this is something they know, maybe they're successful and they know they need this in their life, but they're having such a hard time in that area? How did you like set your mind to doing that? Because that's in itself, getting 21 dates in a month, that's a lot of work. That's a full-time job.
This is pre dating apps too. So there was no dating apps. I had to straight up not cold call, but I had to cold prospect and be like, hey, you want to go on a date? And that's really so the first thing was, before that time, I say one of the best experiences I ever had was being in network marketing during university. Not, and I did well compared to other people, but not like, oh my God, I'm the top of the pyramid and making a ton of money. But the thing that it taught me was, one, it got me into self-development. This is what got me into Bob Proctor and got me into self-development. And it got me into Think and Grow Rich. And in that book, it says the thing that will ruin you is choosing the wrong partner. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, the thing that will unlock the greatness in you and the best life for you is the right partner. I think people have it all backwards. There's so many people out there chasing money without a partner. Mm-hmm. That is ass backwards, pardon my language. Because you cannot build the best. If you're going to have a partner at some point, you cannot build and then bring them in. It's best to build with them. You'll build it way faster because that right partner will help you be a better person. They'll call you on your BS. Mm-hmm. They'll push you in ways that you would never push yourself in. They'll give you insight and perspective that you would not come to yourself. And so the first thing was to decide, I need to find a partner before I figure the business career thing out. The second thing is the list. Because kind of like a business plan, once you've decided I want to do a business, if you have no plan, you're just going to walk around aimlessly achieving nothing. And this is why I've helped so many people find their person, by helping them make this list of the need to haves and the nice to haves. Because first of all, most people don't even, they put nice to haves as need to haves. And then you don't find anyone because, like, dude, let's be real, or girl, let's be real. You're not going to find that person. That person is fictitious. It's a unicorn. Mm-hmm. Stop it. Let's get clear on what you really need, what's really non-negotiable for you, and then what's nice to have. Because the nice to have is, that's what, when people say like relationships or work, it's to have that person check more of the nice to haves, because they want to check them, just currently don't. Mm-hmm. But that's okay, because you can work on that. And as long as they have the need to haves, it's great. And then sometimes you may have like some conflict in your how you're approaching it. Because if you know, the common one I see with guys all the time is like, I don't want a crazy jealous girl. I'm like, well, if you're focused on crazy jealous, you're going to get crazy jealous. You need to focus on calm, comfortable in their skin, confident, smart, intelligent, things like that would make them not crazy or jealous. Mm-hmm. But focus on the actual positive attribute. So then you make that list, and then, it's like when sales guys are like, what's the best closing line? I'm like, ask for the sale. Do you want to buy this? Yeah. That's it. Like, you don't need to overcomplicate things. And with dating, it's like, you just go up to girls and you just say, hey, I think you're cute. I think you're hot. I like you. Do you want to go out sometime and go on a date? Like, it doesn't have to be that common. And some will say no. Maybe even more. Be okay with the no. Right? Be like, okay, good. All right, good. Now I can keep going. I think my earlier life, like, I've always been in sales-ish type careers. Like when I was young, I had a lot of sales jobs when I was younger. And then in events, you're like trying to get people to come up. So you get no's all the time. So I'm just, I got desensitized to a no, and to me, a girl is the same thing. Like you're just asking for the sale. And then part of it is like, well, I don't know if I like you yet, but I'm interested. So like, do you want to go out? And then even that indifference is a huge attraction. That like, you're not saying like, oh my God, I love you. Can we please go out? It's like, hey, I think you're kind of cool. I don't really know you yet, but I'd love to learn more. You want to go out sometime. And then that is really lowers the guard of the other person. So it's not like, oh, you're not coming on too strong and you're not, telling me you love me without even really knowing me. Just by simply saying a few of those words and asking over and over and over again, you'll then get more dates. And then if you know what you're looking for, then you ask the right questions in the date. Don't waste too much time with the wrong person, and can quickly churn through people until you find the right one. And then I think I was maybe too aggressive in the dating, and that's probably why. And I needed to just relax a little bit because I was so hell bent on like, I want to find my partner and then start my business. And I think as soon as I stopped and let go and just kind of let the universe kind of put people in front of me, I still continue to ask the right questions and keep it on my mind, but I wasn't as aggressive on it. Then that's when it happened.
Really good advice, Grant. And I think anybody who's watching or listening and wanted this to be like a business growth podcast, and it's like, why are we talking relationships? Because these things go together. These things are like very much tied together, right? And I talk about this all the time, that everything that's professional is personal, and everything that's personal is professional. Everything is the same in a way. And what you were saying there is so true, because I think one of the things you left out in the journey of this was you also knew yourself, right? You were in personal development. You were listening to Bob Proctor. You were learning from one of the greats. So you were getting a sense of who you were. So you knew you, and you knew how to talk to people, because when you start to get into personal development, you learn about yourself. You become confident in yourself. So then you are confident to talk to other people because you're secure in yourself, right? So when you show up for somebody, when you show up in somebody else's life, you're not showing up trying to please them. You're showing up just being you, knowing what you want. So you probably knew your values too, I'm assuming, right? Whether you verbally knew them.
I would say I would say I was learning them, because like, heck, I still am asking myself, who am I? And what's my purpose and values now in my life? And that's the benefit of a partner, to help you figure that out. And I think everyone's like, oh, I got to work on myself before I am with someone.
Right.
I think you should start to work on yourself and continue to work on yourself and find someone who has also started to work on themselves. Yeah. And then together you work on yourselves together. You get to where you want to go so much faster when you have someone there with you, because like, it's kind of like in sports, bad practice leads to bad results. So you could be practicing self-development, but doing it totally wrong and get nowhere.
Yeah.
And if to have a partner be with you, they can see if you're like going astray.
Yeah, man, that's such great advice, Grant, because when you have the right person with you, they're like a mirror, and they see you, and they point, and they don't point out the stuff to hurt you. They point it out to help you, right? And I think it's another place where we get caught up in business and personal life. When somebody critiques us, we take it so personally, like they're personally attacking who we are. But the truth is, they're helping us to see if they're doing it from a kind place, and even if they're doing it from a mean place, we can learn from everybody, right? So it's like, I'm learning something. If I trust this person, I know that their heart's in the right place. I know that they know what they're talking about because they've got their head on straight. Then they're going to see me correctly, and now they're going to help me level up. So what you're saying is 100%. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that I see, is either people who are in relationships and those relationships are not what they need to be, or they're not in a relationship because they're trying to find the perfect one, instead of getting into something and letting that person help them grow, and you help that other person grow. It's so important, man. So I'm glad this conversation went in that direction, because it needs to be talked about more often, and it needs to be said. And I'll also say this too, like, and I think this is true for guys more than it is for girls, but there's a lot of research done. Number one, that marriage helps you become more successful, but kids also help you become more successful. So there's a lot of research in just the family dynamic that pushes you to be a better person, pushes you to have to do more, to want to do more, because you've got to take care of the people that you're in charge of, that you're, you know, that you are like the leader of. And that's just so valuable. And we've left that out of our society, and it makes sense why things go the wrong direction so many times. So thank you, man. Great information. I really loved this conversation. It's been so valuable, just knowing how you've built yourself back up multiple times, but how you had somebody by your side that was also on that path of doing that. Anything that you'd want to advice you'd want to give to people, or anything we didn't touch on that you'd want to touch on before we wrap this thing up?
So I, we were talking about like why was I able to bounce back, and on the flip side, why I let go of the business. Why, like, working with your wife is, when you've never worked with your significant other spouse before, it's not just sunshine and lollipops all the time.
Yeah.
Like it is challenging, and we had to work on it, and get better at it. We used to have this thing in our office at the very beginning when we first started our business together. We're like, when people would hire and come in, we're like, okay, look, Amanda and I, we're gonna fight. We're alpha. We're both alpha. We're gonna just go hard, but don't worry. Like, we're not breaking up. Like, this is just how we do things. So just, and we might even ask you for your opinion and tell you, which side do you take? And we want you to tell your side. And everyone was like, you can't do that. That's horrible. You just need to not fight as much. And so we're like, okay, fine. So we worked on the not fighting. And in all of that, one of my favorite phrases for myself and for people I coach and my employees, you notice in life, people sometimes lack action in their business, action towards their health, action in a relationship. If there's no action, it's because there's no vision.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a big vision, you have action. Action comes from vision.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're struggling with the action, it's because you're not clear on the vision and the why. And then if you're taking massive action and you're not getting the results you want, that's why Amanda and I continue to invest so much time and money, I think hundreds of thousands of dollars and so many hours in self-development and seeking out different coaches and events and masterminds, all these things. Because when you are taking action and you're not getting the results you want in your relationship, your health, your business, you just need training. That's all. You just need training. So with vision comes action. No action, no vision. If you're taking action, there's no results. You just need training. Training goes and creates results. And if you just keep focused on those two things, and when you're working with someone or you've got a co-founder, right? Because co-founder relationships and marriage relationships, lots of similarities, as well as like your employees. One of my favorite quotes that has helped me out is, all forms of communication are one of two things: either an expression of love, and we all know what that looks like and sounds like, or it's a cry for help. So when that person is giving you critical feedback, when that person is telling you to F off, when that employee is getting mad at you and not showing up to work and not working so hard, when your co-founder is not working hard, when they're checked out, when they're frustrated and getting angry, it's not like they're actually angry at you or there's something wrong with you. It's, oh, that person's crying for help. And when you see someone crying for help, do you get mad? No. Do you get defensive? No. Do you take things personally? No. You go help them. You're like, what do I need to do? How can I help you? I want to make you happy and like and love things. And those two things I've learned over the times have guided me in so many moments so that I can respond and get what I want.
Good stuff. Great stuff. Love that. If people want to find you and contact you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
I would say Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. Just DM me. Grant Findlay-Shirras is my handle, I think, on all those platforms. And I'm the only Grant Findlay-Shirras in the world. So if you just enter my name into Google, my information is all over the place. You can find me and reach out.
Cool. Yeah, and I'll tag you in this episode, so if they're watching this, they can find you right from here as well. Man, this has been an awesome conversation. This has been the Unstuck Movement.